Recap. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 921. Chapter. The quiet paths of the left minister's residence slowly returned to stillness as Ling Han stepped out from the garden. At the entrance, Xiang Chengyun stood waiting. The moment their eyes met, a chill flashed across Xiang Chengyun's gaze. It was the kind of cold that came from restrained hostility, barely concealed, yet carefully controlled. However, before he could even utter a single word, his body suddenly stiffened. It was as if he had heard something that Ling Han could not. Yes! Xiang Chengyun replied abruptly, speaking to the empty air as though answering an unseen command. Without another glance at Ling Han, he immediately turned and hurried back into the garden. The meaning of it was obvious. The left minister had summoned him. Ling Han watched his departing figure and slowly shook his head. Xiang Chengyun was not some ordinary figure. By any standard within the academy, he could be considered a genius in his own right. Ling Han had already looked into his background. During his years in the academy, Xiang Chengyun's achievements had been remarkable. In just over 700 years, he had already climbed to the higher levels of the mountain river tier. For a cultivator, that pace was nothing short of impressive. And yet, he had abandoned the independent road of cultivation. Instead, he chose to stand beneath the vast shadow of the left minister. With such a towering figure supporting him, even powerful elites of the Sun-Moon tier would not dare behave arrogantly before Xiang Chengyun. Outwardly, he appeared majestic, someone others treated with respect and caution. But Ling Han knew the truth. Before the left minister, Xiang Chengyun was nothing more than a loyal hound. If the left minister ordered him forward, he would never dare take a step backward. A life like that, what meaning could it possibly hold? Ling Han knew himself well enough. He would never choose such a path. For cultivators, the most sacred pursuit was always one's own cultivation. Seeking protection by flattering powerful figures might bring temporary benefits, but it was never the true Dao. Of course, Ling Han had no intention of lecturing Xiang Chengyun about this. Every cultivator walked their own road. The choices one made were theirs alone. With that thought, Ling Han left the residence and returned to the academy. Once back within the quiet training grounds, he focused entirely on his cultivation, continuing his work on the profound technique known as the 6 techniques, Return to One. The enlightenment he had experienced earlier at the left minister's residence had been incredibly valuable. It was as though a veil had lifted from his understanding. After that moment of insight, his progress along this path had advanced significantly. Ling Han could already sense it clearly. If he maintained this pace, within half a year, he would be able to push his strength to the absolute limit of 20 stars. That was the pinnacle of power he could currently reach. Time flowed on. Another day passed, and then, a piece of news exploded across the entire academy like a thunderbolt. Ling Han and Shui Yanyu had secretly pledged themselves to one another. Not only that, according to the rumors now spreading wildly through the academy, the two had already become husband and wife. The moment this news circulated, the entire institution erupted into chaos. Ling Han? Who is that? Most people had never even heard his name. Only a small number of students knew that Ling Han was the #1 student of this year's Northern Institution enrollment. He had passed through 8 levels during the entrance trials, an astonishing result that hinted he might one day become a 4-star genius. Even so, compared to the second name in that rumor, his fame was insignificant, because the other person involved was Shui Yanyu. And Shui Yanyu was anything but ordinary. Before she even turned 20, she had already been known as one of the twin pearls of the imperial capital. Though her fame had diminished somewhat after entering the academy, where beauty was far from rare in the immortal realm, her reputation remained extraordinary. If one were to gather the most beautiful women of the past 10,000 years and rank them, Shui Yanyu would unquestionably stand among the top 3. Some would even argue she deserved the very first place. Her beauty was like that of a celestial maiden descending from the heavens, like peach blossoms blooming beneath a spring moon. Even cultivators who had spent centuries pursuing ascetic discipline might find their hearts shaken by a single glance from her. Otherwise, why would Zhao Lun, son of the great General Zhao, have openly declared that she would one day become the future madam of the Zhao clan? And that was precisely why this news shocked everyone. Shui Yanyu's name had become inseparable from Zhao Lun. In the eyes of countless students, she was Zhao Lun's forbidden territory. Yet now, someone had dared to step into that territory and take her away? Who possessed such terrifying courage? The academy immediately began digging through Ling Han's background. Bit by bit, information surfaced. He was the top student of the Northern Institution's newest intake. He had passed through 8 levels during the trials. He possessed exceptional talent in alchemy. He had originated from a small world. And finally, the most shocking revelation of all, Ling Han was an emperor who had opened the skies. That last piece of information sent waves of disbelief throughout the academy. In the eyes of most cultivators, opening the skies was a feat that existed only in legends. Even in the immortal realm, there were very few who could reach the terrifying battle strength of 20 stars at the Shattering Void tier. Achieving 15 stars within a small world was already extraordinary. Even with the power of an entire nation supporting them, reaching 20 stars should have been impossible. And yet, Ling Han had done it. He had shattered the limits of his world. Now, many finally understood how he had passed 8 levels in the entrance. Such talent was indeed worthy of being called extraordinary. But all of that meant nothing before the Zhao clan. No matter how impressive Ling Han's background sounded, he still relied on the protection of the left minister, unless he was actually the left minister's own son. What right did he have to compete with Zhao Lun for a woman? The entire academy waited eagerly to see what would happen next. After all, Zhao Lun had once publicly declared that once he graduated from the academy, he would marry Shui Yanyu, and the Shui clan had already agreed. In the midst of this storm of gossip, a familiar voice suddenly burst into Ling Han's courtyard. "Blockhead! Blockhead!" Li Weiwei came rushing in like a whirlwind, her face filled with excitement. She planted herself in front of Ling Han and stared at him with wide eyes. "Is it true?" she demanded. "Did you really marry Big Sister Shui?" Ling Han glanced at her calmly. This entire mess had begun because of her careless actions in the first place. "And if I did?" he replied evenly. Li Weiwei tilted her head, examining him carefully. "Strange," she murmured. "You're not particularly handsome. You don't know how to flatter women either. So what exactly does Big Sister Shui see in you?" She rested her chin on her hand, looking deeply puzzled. "Even my maid wouldn't fall in love with someone like you. Could it be Big Sister Shui has been bewitched?" Ling Han was momentarily speechless. This fourth young miss truly had a talent for saying the most hurtful things without hesitation. Even if she was the daughter of the left minister, someone few would dare offend, her lack of emotional awareness would certainly make sincere friendships difficult. But Li Weiwei quickly changed her tone. "Still, you're in big trouble now." She leaned closer and lowered her voice dramatically. "Zhao Lun is not just any martial arts genius. He has 3 followers, each one a genius among geniuses." She made a slicing motion across her neck. "If he gives the order, one of them will do this to you, and tomorrow your corpse will probably be found abandoned in the streets." Ling Han sighed. "Couldn't you at least say something encouraging?" "Beg me," Li Weiwei said proudly, placing her hands on her hips. "Zhao Lun might be strong, but I'm not afraid of him. If you beg me nicely enough, I might step in and protect you." Ling Han shook his head without hesitation. "I'll pass. I'm not interested in becoming someone else's servant." Li Weiwei's face instantly flushed with anger. Did this fool have any idea how much she had struggled before deciding she might oppose Zhao Lun? The Zhao clan's power rivaled that of the left minister's residence. At their level of influence, even the actions of the younger generation carried political implications. If word spread that the left minister and great General Zhao were at odds, the consequences could shake the entire empire. And yet this idiot rejected her immediately. Her kindness had been completely wasted. "You ungrateful blockhead. Humph, who cares whether you live or die?" With that, she stormed away in a fury. Ling Han simply watched her go, his expression calm. When he agreed to Shui Yanyu's request, he had already anticipated the consequences. But even Zhao Lun could not openly break the rules of the academy. No matter how powerful he was, the Zhao clan was still merely the family of a general within the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. They were not the imperial family. Soldiers would be met with weapons. Floodwaters would be met with earthworks. What was there to fear? Far away, beneath a roaring waterfall, stood a young man with his hands clasped behind his back. Behind him floated three vast visions of mountains and rivers. These were not illusions. They were manifestations of cultivation. This young man had already reached the higher levels of the mountain-river tier. Yet, something about those mountains and rivers was strange. Instead of lush green peaks and clear-flowing waters like ordinary cultivators possessed, his mountains and rivers flickered with a sinister red glow. They radiated a terrifying aura. Behind him, a young man knelt respectfully on one knee. His expression was filled with reverence, almost worship. "Is it true?" The standing young man asked calmly. "Did Yanyu admit it herself?" "Yes, young master," the kneeling man replied. The standing figure was none other than Zhao Lun, and the man kneeling behind him was one of his loyal followers, Zuo Xiao. Zuo Xiao had just finished reporting the entire matter of Ling Han and Shui Yanyu's marriage. Inside his heart, fury burned like wildfire. Shui Yanyu was the woman their young master had chosen. Being favored by Zhao Lun should have been the greatest fortune of her life, yet she had always remained cold toward him, and now she had gone so far as to marry another man. To Zuo Xiao, this was nothing short of betrayal. Zhao Lun suddenly laughed. He shook his head slowly. "What a troublesome matter. It seems I have given her far too much freedom." He paused, then asked casually, "Oh, what was that man's name again?" "Ling Han," Zuo Xiao answered immediately. Zhao Lun reached into his spatial spirit tool and tossed out a small object. "Send this to him. If he accepts it obediently." Zhao Lun's voice was calm, almost indifferent. "Then spare his life." Zuo Xiao glanced at the object. A cold smile slowly spread across his face. "As you command, young master." And with that, the wheels of fate quietly began to turn. Translator, Henyi Translations. Editor, Henyi Translations. In the quiet depths of the Northern Institution, Ling Han sat cross-legged in meditation, circulating the power of heaven and earth through his meridians as he cultivated. The courtyard around him was silent, the air calm, the rhythm of his breathing steady like the tide of a tranquil sea. Suddenly, a cold, commanding shout tore through the silence like a blade slicing through silk. "Ling Han, come out!" The voice was sharp and domineering, echoing through the courtyard walls. Ling Han slowly opened his eyes. His expression did not change, though a faint glimmer of understanding flickered within them. He rose to his feet without hurry and walked toward the courtyard gate. With a calm motion, he pushed open the doors and stepped outside. Two young men stood beyond the entrance. Their auras surged with the unmistakable pressure of the shattering void tier. Both looked to be seasoned cultivators, but their faces were unfamiliar to Ling Han. They were clearly not from the newest batch of students admitted to the Northern Institution. Most likely, they belonged to a previous batch, or perhaps one even earlier. Ling Han observed them quietly before asking in an even tone, "What can I do for you?" Even as he spoke, he had already guessed their purpose. At that moment, the surrounding courtyards began to stir. Doors creaked open one after another, and curious faces peered out. The commotion had attracted attention. Soon, murmurs spread like ripples across still water. "That's senior brother Wang Wan, and beside him is senior brother Zhang Qing. They're both subordinates of senior brother Zhao Lun. Pei. Subordinates? They're only the subordinates of the three great followers serving senior brother Zhao Lun. They're still several layers removed from senior brother Zhao himself. Even so, if they've appeared here today, it must be on senior brother Zhao's behalf." "Of course!" Ling Han dared to try and snatch senior brother Zhao's woman. Did you really think Zhao Lun would remain silent? The crowd whispered excitedly. Many of the onlookers wore mocking smiles. Some crossed their arms and leaned against doorframes, clearly enjoying the unfolding drama. This reaction was perfectly natural. Ling Han had not only claimed first place among the newest students of the Northern Institution, he had also become entangled with senior sister Shui Yanyu. Shui Yanyu was a beauty whose charm could shake cities. Countless students secretly admired her. The moment Ling Han appeared by her side, jealousy had quietly ignited across the academy. Ling Han listened to the whispers drifting through the air and understood everything. So Zhao Lun had finally made a move. However, Zhao Lun clearly did not consider him important enough to deal with personally. Instead, he had merely sent two shattering void tier cultivators. Was this meant to be a display of force? Wang Wan stared at Ling Han with a faint sneer. In his eyes, Ling Han was nothing more than a frog that had leapt out of a well. This fellow had come from a small, insignificant world and had barely managed to open the sky and enter the immortal realm. Did he truly think that meant he could do whatever he pleased here? Today, they would teach him the rules. "We have come under the orders of senior brother Zhao Lun," Wang Wan announced coldly, "to deliver a gift to you." The surrounding students were stunned when they heard those words. A gift? Had Zhao Lun lost his mind? Ling Han had supposedly stolen his woman, yet Zhao Lun was sending him a gift? Ling Han remained composed. "Oh," he replied lightly. "And what kind of gift would that be?" Wang Wan and Zhang Qing exchanged a brief glance. Wang Wan raised his hand and retrieved a brocade box from his spatial spirit tool. The box was wrapped with exquisite silk cloth and looked rather elegant, though it was not large. Holding it before him, Wang Wan declared arrogantly, "Kneel down and receive your gift?" "Kneel?" Ling Han burst into loud laughter. "Has something gone wrong with your heads?" Zhang Qing's face darkened as he spoke in a sinister voice. "This is a generous gift from senior brother Zhao, yet you dare refuse to kneel and show your gratitude?" Ling Han waved a hand dismissively. "If that's the case," he said calmly, "you should simply take this gift back with you. I have no interest in accepting it." Wang Wan snorted. "A gift given by senior brother Zhao cannot be taken back," he said coldly. "If you refuse to kneel, fine. Then you may simply take it." He nodded slightly toward Zhang Qing. Zhang Qing understood the signal immediately. He stepped forward and began unwrapping the brocade box. Curiosity filled the air. Everyone wanted to know what Zhao Lun had sent. No one believed Zhao Lun was a kind man. On the contrary, he was notorious for his arrogance and domineering behavior. The silk cloth was slowly peeled away. Then Zhang Qing opened the box in full view of the crowd. For a moment, complete silence fell across the courtyard. Inside the brocade box lay a single object, a dog collar. The meaning was unmistakable. Zhao Lun intended to treat Ling Han as a dog, placing a collar around his neck and dragging him along as a servant to be ordered about. This was not merely an insult, it was utter humiliation. In Zhao Lun's eyes, Ling Han was nothing more than a dog. Wang Wan smiled smugly as he announced, "Senior brother Zhao says that if you accept this gift, your life will be spared." Instantly, every gaze in the courtyard turned toward Ling Han. The implication was clear. If Ling Han accepted the collar, he would become Zhao Lun's servant. If he refused, his fate would be death. No one dared dismiss Zhao Lun's words as empty threats. Unless Ling Han hid inside the academy forever, it would be effortless for the son of great General Zhao to kill a mere shattering void-tier cultivator. What would he choose? Either path seemed hopeless. From the moment Ling Han became entangled with Shui Yanyu, many believed his fate had already been sealed. A flicker of fury flashed deep within Ling Han's eyes. Yet outwardly, his expression remained frighteningly calm. He stared at the dog collar. Then he stepped forward. Was he planning to accept it? Compared with survival, what did pride matter? Moreover, becoming Zhao Lun's dog was something many people would gladly accept, though Zhao Lun rarely deemed anyone worthy. Wang Wan and Zhang Qing curled their lips into satisfied smiles. Just as they expected, who was not afraid of death? Ling Han reached out and picked up the collar. For a heartbeat, the courtyard remained silent. Then, crack! With a sudden burst of strength, the collar snapped cleanly in two within his hands. Ling Han tossed the broken pieces casually onto the ground. "I appreciate senior brother Zhao's kindness," he said calmly. "But unfortunately, I do not possess the fortune to enjoy such a gift." The broken collar struck the stone floor with a sharp sound. Once again, silence swept through the courtyard. Ling Han had openly chosen to oppose Zhao Lun. Where had he found such courage? Zhao Lun was no ordinary opponent. He was the only son of the mighty great General Zhao. His cultivation had already reached the higher levels of the Mountain River tier. Rumors even claimed he was a 3-star genius. What qualifications did Ling Han possess to challenge such a figure? "You insolent fool!" Wang Wan roared furiously. "You dare destroy senior brother Zhao's gift? Do you know what crime you've committed?" Ling Han's eyes grew icy. "You brought this thing here to humiliate me," he replied coldly. "Should I not smash it?" He pointed toward the gate. "Now get out of here immediately. Don't annoy me with the sight of your faces. You're already a dead man? Wang Wan sneered. And yet you still dare act arrogantly? Before his words finished, pa! Ling Han moved. In a single swift motion, he grabbed Wang Wan by the neck and lifted him off the ground. With Ling Han's current strength, any opponent whose battle prowess was below 20 stars was no match for him. His fingers tightened slightly. If I'm already destined to die, Ling Han said coldly, then dragging a few people with me into the grave doesn't sound so bad. Wang Wan's entire body trembled. The hair on his arms stood upright as terror surged through him. He had absolutely no intention of sacrificing his life for Zhao Lun. He had no personal grudge against Ling Han. If he died here today, wouldn't that be the greatest injustice imaginable? And no, don't kill me, he stammered in panic. Coward. Ling Han tossed him aside like a sack of garbage. The academy permitted sparring among students, but killing or crippling others was strictly forbidden. Ling Han had never believed he was truly doomed. Naturally, he would not throw away his future by killing some insignificant lackey. Get lost, he barked. Wang Wan scrambled to his feet, his face pale. Together with Zhang Qing, he fled the courtyard in disgrace. They were not weak cultivators by any means. But within the shattering void tier, there were almost no opponents capable of matching Ling Han, just as they were about to leave. You forgot something. Ling Han raised his foot. Whoosh! The broken dog collar flew through the air. Wang Wan caught it reflexively, but did not dare linger any longer. Clutching the shattered collar, he hurried away like a defeated cur, soon disappearing from sight. The students who had witnessed everything exchanged uneasy looks. Ling Han might have looked impressive today. But what about tomorrow? The academy forbade higher-tier students from attacking those of lower tiers. However, Ling Han could not remain at the shattering void tier forever. Once he advanced to the mountain river tier's lower stage, cultivators at the peak of that level would have every right to challenge him. It was true that Ling Han possessed the talent of a 4-star genius, but the academy also housed many 3-star and 2-star geniuses. Those people could easily torment him until he wished for death. And besides, could Ling Han stay within the academy forever? One by one, the spectators shook their heads. In their eyes, Ling Han's days were already numbered. Far away from the academy grounds stood the grand residence of the Luo clan. Inside the clan's main hall, Luo Hongdao summoned Luo Ba. Have you completed refining the blood tier stone? Luo Hongdao asked. Yes, Lord Patriarch, Luo Ba replied confidently. His aura surged powerfully. After refining the blood tier stone, his battle prowess had risen to 21 stars. The newfound strength filled him with pride. Luo Hongdao nodded. That lowlife Ling Han has already become mortal enemies with Zhao Lun, he said calmly. It is only a matter of time before he dies. A cold glint flashed in Luo Ba's eyes. Luo Hongdao continued, You will go immediately and challenge him. If Zhao Lun kills him first, you will lose the chance to wash away your humiliation. He paused slightly before adding, Furthermore, if you kill that lowlife on Zhao Lun's behalf, we may be able to establish ties with a towering figure like Great General Zhao. Luo Ba's lips curled into a cruel smile. Yes, Lord Patriarch. At last, the moment he had been waiting for had arrived. He could hardly wait to kill Ling Han.